Hello and welcome to Sectors Up Close. I'm Ramzan Karamali. Today we're looking at the US healthcare sector and my guest is Aoifinn Devitt, Chief Investment Officer at Moneta. Spending on healthcare is on the rise. In 2021 it reached $4.3 trillion. That's 18% of GDP. It's expected to hit $6 trillion by 2028. The healthcare industry also employs more workers than any other in America. The main S&P Healthcare Sector Index includes companies that make drugs, medical equipment, provide medical care and health insurance. But it's underperformed the main market significantly. It's in negative territory this year so far and actually fell last year too. So are healthcare stocks worth investing in? And if you do decide to do so, what should you look out for? Well, to help answer that and more, I'm joined by Aoifinn Devitt, Chief Investment Officer at Moneta. Aoifinn, let's start with that thought. You know, it's obvious the healthcare sector hasn't performed very well. Why do you think that is, and can it turn itself around?
Well, certainly we hope it can turn itself around. We hope that some triage is going to be possible and we can get the patient back and up and running. But what is happening is healthcare is traditionally thought about as a defensive sector. So as we've had this rise in rates, and that's continued very much throughout this year, there would tend to be a flow out of those value stocks with the dividend payment into higher yielding bonds. That's the traditional flow. So we've seen that happen for value stocks and defensive stocks, not so much for growth stocks. Because some of these stocks have underperformed, we've seen this compounding effect of tax loss harvesting, selling of the losers, more selling to essentially lock in those tax losses because there will have been gains on the other side. So we've seen this compounding effect around healthcare. And equally, the hype around COVID has died down. There's less concern around that. But I will say there are definitely pockets of opportunity, and there are some healthcare stocks that have done a lot better than others.
Well, there are a variety of stocks within the sector. Are there sectors that you particularly like going forward?
Definitely. I do like the big pharma companies. I do like the health insurers. When we look at the inflation numbers, that number that kept rising stealthily as part of inflation was services, and healthcare insurance was a huge part of that. So we don't see any slack happening there in that healthcare insurance payments area. You've mentioned healthcare spending in general likely to rise. And the big pharma companies, particularly those around the weight loss drugs, that clearly is the new hype trade within healthcare today. We've seen that in Eli Lilly. We've seen that in Europe as well, around Novo Nordisk, and equally that seems to be where a lot of the focus is. But similarly, there seems to be a zero-sum game when it comes to weight loss, in that there's a sense that if there's a weight loss and obesity is no longer the problem that it has been, that this will have a negative effect on, say, orthopedic devices or on other diabetes conditions or on drugs made to treat them. So it does seem that investors are becoming very single issue when it comes to pharmaceutical stocks. Perhaps they're less excited by the COVID names, more excited by the weight loss names, and we're not sure that that is sustainable, that kind of single issue trading.
You mentioned the COVID names there, the likes of Pfizer and Moderna. They've done abysmally this year. Is there any hope for them? Should they start looking, like Eli Lilly, into say, sort of weight loss drugs more?
There is definitely a sense that they've been oversold and that they do represent good value at this stage. All the year we've been focused on the Magnificent Seven and how they've really driven this engine of stock market performance in the US. Now there's a sense that the other 493 are likely to continue to participate and will rise according to their fundamental value. Many stock pickers are saying it's a return to fundamentals, and if that happens, those healthcare stocks with a broad-based portfolio should in fact see a resurgence. We're also expecting that AI has not yet been factored in because of its impact on healthcare. It could actually be quite significant. This is one of the sectors likely to be most disrupted by AI. We've already seen tremendous focus on medical electronic records and digital health, that emerging areas focused on the impact on patients that telemedicine will have. It will essentially, there are many healthcare deserts in the US where no facilities are present. Telemedicine can completely transform this. So there are many dynamics within healthcare that are very interesting and very much can be leveraged with this current tech hype. The problem is everyone's focused on single issue right now, and it's not being factored in. And
finally, which stocks do you particularly like in this sector at the moment then?
Well, I would go back again to some of those names we mentioned, some of the health around the weight loss drugs. We would suggest that that's an area to focus on. And equally, biotech has been completely oversold. We think there could be some interesting pickings within the biotech sector, again, focused on some of those companies that are trading well below enterprise value, well below cash value in some cases, to focus on that and see that perhaps as a kind of venture capital-like aspect of an equity portfolio.
Aoifinn Devitt, Chief Investment Officer from Moneta, many thanks for those thoughts. And that is your roundup of the US healthcare sector. I'm Ramzan Karamali, and this is Reuters.